Hello, party people, and welcome to our erotic podcast number 4.
I'm Joshua Keep.
And I'm Michelle Keep.
We've got several topics to discuss in this month's podcast. But first, we're going to be starting off with some recent issues of censorship of erotica, especially in regards to ebooks.
On Amazon and Kobo. And for all of you smartasses that say that it's not censorship, congratulations, we know. But because there is not really a word for corporate censorship this has been going on since as long as there's been books, there's been some type of censorship. And it hasn't always been government censorship. There has been plenty of censorship by publishers, choosing not to carry certain books, certain topics. Lolita, of course, had a lot of trouble finding a publisher. So this is not something new.
Well, I think what people tend to miss so much in the strict definitions is that what it comes down to is power dynamics. And that, whether it's by, a strict dictation of the state or whether it's just by a social consensus, the power can be exercised to bring about certain changes in the way things are done and whatnot.
So right now what's happening is Amazon has been, firstly, there was a blog post done about the horrors of the things that you can find on Amazon.
Which, for our listeners coming from Darkness, is probably going to seem extremely tepid and
so
tainted.
Vanilla. They're banning things that are pseudo-incest. For those of you that aren't up with our lingo, pseudo-incest is step-siblings. There's no blood relation. So this used to be fine on Amazon. Now they're asking us to dress it up. They no longer want my sister fucked while she sleeps on their site. They want everything to be more like, hidden. They don't want that shock value anymore.
Well, it was a big backlash to this reaction. Some minor news coverage sites took it up, and then the BBC started championing this whole smut on Amazon thing.
Because right now the UK is kind of going very anti-pornography, so they've really latched to this.
They've had the whole concept of anti-social laws has really been picking up steam in the UK for a while. And now it's targeting, it seems like a lot of groups there really got their sights set on the idea of going after what they deem as pornography.
So W.H. Smith found out that Kobo had been, I guess they get all of their books, or most of their books, through Kobo. So Kobo had been giving them some rather shocking titles that they weren't fans of. So they actually shut down their entire website for several days while they removed all this content. So, of course...
No. They actually... they took down all indie authors.
Yes, but they took down the entire site while they took down all of the indie authors.
Yes. So not even just erotic or romance authors, but all indie authors.
Yeah, they just figured,
you could be writing history about...
Screw y'all.
The War of 1812 and,
So, of course, Kobo is very upset that they've lost this major retailer in the UK. So Kobo has temporarily, they say, removed all indie books as well. Doesn't matter what genre. They're trying to get things back, but they're starting with non-erotica and non-romance. And if you have any erotica or romance on your catalog, the chances of you having stuff back on Kobo already is very slim. They link everything to your account. So because our account has erotica, even our less erotic titles are not available. So I'm really sorry to everybody that's been clicking to Kobo on our website lately. For some reason, you guys have come out in droves. So I'm really sorry. Smashwords does provide all formats. So you could get it for, you know, anything, any e-reader or tablet that you have. Smashwords provides it, and we publish all of our books, even if they're true incest or rape or as shocking as they come. We publish it all through Smashwords, and Smashwords has come out in support of indie authors and in anti-censorship of these topics. That's why you can get our Lost Lagoon collection. We sent that out for free to all of our wonderful mailing list subscribers. It's one of our Twincest titles. So we sent out a copy of that to all of our mailing list subscribers for free in, I don't know, solidarity for this banning. Amazon has removed all of our Teenage Slut series.
Poor teenage slut.
Our poor teenage slut. Poor Tiffany. She's had a hard life. So you can't get it there anymore, unfortunately. We might go back and try to pretty it up like they want, but we're not sure if it's going to be worth the trouble at this point. So we're just kind of waiting for the dust to settle. Yeah,
Amazon didn't react with the same ridiculousness that Kobo and the UK vendor did by, you know, hacking on everything. But, I mean, what was it, estimated thousands? They just, overnight, they started hatcheting away thousands of titles from their store.
And there's certain keywords that they're looking for. We had one of our books, Cutting a Deal, removed. They told us it was because of the cover. And
which is silly because it's, for those of you who know, it's a drawn image of the main character.
Anjasa,
who was based on an old character we had created back from our old gaming days and World of Warcraft and that sort of thing. And so it's drawn image, and it's not you would see more.
There's cleavage.
Even if it were a real woman on the cover, you would see more shocking images in a Sears catalog, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. So I took it to a bunch of friends on an erotica author forum that I frequent, and asked them why they thought, and somebody mentioned that it could be the word dungeon. The subtitle is Anjasa Between Dungeons collection. So
yeah, because we call it that because it's sort of like a D&D sort of like classic fantasy adventure characters, but you know the stuff that goes on in between when they're off adventuring.
Yeah, so you know in between Anjasa's dungeons, there's lots of sex. So you know. There's lots of really vague rules like that happening right now. People are really uncertain about why their books are being blocked. Right now, like virgin, babysitter, dungeon, kidnapped, sleeping, brother, sister, daddy, mommy. You know, those are all words that you're pretty much not going to have as much luck finding on Amazon anymore.
Well, yeah, a lot of, so many, I know for erotic authors, it's really tiresome because what you want is a set of clear rules that you can look to follow. And so you know when you're trying to publish something, and well, as long as I don't do this, I'm fine. My thing will go through. I mean, that's what you want. You want rules that you can adhere to so you know when you're in the clear and you don't have to wait for some person you don't know on the other side of the internet to just, you know, lay down a judgment on you. You want that. But Amazon has never given any clear instructions. I mean, their policy on content they don't allow is, quote, it's pretty much what you would expect, end quote. Which is about the most meaningless statement you could ever give.
And they're not going to change that. They want it to be vague so that they can cover their asses no matter what happens.
Right, so they can respond to crises like what this big publicity thing that hurt them,
like,
or they feel it hurt them.
Oh, this is against our rules. And then everybody looks at their rules and say, well, how can you interpret this? And they say, well, it's against our rules. And you can't really argue with that. It's so vague and meaningless. How can you argue with what, you know, it's pretty much what you expect.
Yeah, so the Puritans among society are going to read that and say, well, yeah, of course, I would consider, like, disgusting...
Sex obscene.
Sex is obscene, so, like, of course you'd get rid of that. So, I mean, yeah, so it's saying it's reasonable to me. So, it's this ridiculously vague thing that means nothing except to, I guess, people who would want to censor, get rid of this content. So they think it's great because they interpret it to mean it's against the same things they are, as long as Amazon does some token act against that. But I think the big thing to take away from it is that there's no set rules to this, and Amazon has continually been changing. I mean, initially when they were selling ebooks, they had no restrictions. They let you sell whatever you want, even content that is illegal.
Yep. And they even came out in defense of it at first, but...
and they have freedom of speech. They said that, you should be able to write about this stuff, it doesn't matter. But they changed, they woke up to that, and then they kind of really overstepped in that.
Yeah.
It was a reaction to some genuinely illegal material.
It was a how-to guide to, molest children.
Yeah, and it was understandable you react to that and they do something about that, but then they went after a lot of fictional material that had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, that was when they originally took off all incest. They used to allow pure incest, and that changed, I think, in 2010 or so. Mm-hmm. It's always been changing. The game's never been set.
It's because I think a lot of people out there tend to confuse morality with the law, and they think that because they find something immoral or distasteful, that therefore it should be illegal.
Yeah, in a lot of the articles, they seem to keep saying, oh, they're writing about all these illegal things. But I mean, that's just kind of fiction in general. We write about murder and thieving and, everything, right? It's hard to watch a movie without there being some crime committed. It's hard to play a game where there's not a crime. It's hard to read a book where there's not a crime.
All of fiction is founded upon people writing about some illegal activity.
Yeah, so, and the fallout from it and what happens.
But every article talking about the whole banning of erotica, they always say this is writing about illegal activities. Well, it's just that's obviously they're trying to present this image of making it sound so scandalous and dirty. But I mean, every book has some content of illegal activity. Silly.
As far as I know, the only things that has ever successfully been persecuted in North America for obscenity, using written words, is underage. I don't think there's ever been any case of incest or rape or bestiality or anything, no matter how illegal those acts are in real life. I don't think there's ever successfully been tried for obscenity.
Yeah, but the courts in Canada and in at least several American states have come down and said, you can't write about underage sex.
Yeah. So, mostly we just wanted to let our readers know that, there is going to be some more problems finding some of our dirtier stuff, the stuff that's a bit more scandalously titled. It hasn't affected us too much because a lot of what we write, especially under the JE&M Keep name, is longer, more plot-driven, story-driven, character-driven, rather than smut.
In these debates, Michelle and I, we always come down in favor of... We always kind of take on the perspective of erotica writers, yet most of what we write is long romance or fantasy adventure stuff with sex thrown in.
Yeah, it's fantasy sci-fi with a lot of sex.
But not even a lot of sex all the time.
Yeah, it depends on what the story calls.
So most of the stuff we write is not novels and longer novels that wouldn't even really qualify as erotica. But I don't know, we just mentally identify with our erotica writers. We love you, perverts.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just comes down to the fact that I don't want a Puritan stumbling across our stuff and finding out that there's more sex than they expected. I would rather there be a pervert stumble across it and find out there's more plot than they expected.
Yeah, we've always been very upfront about the content in our book and our books, and that's one of the things that bothers me the most about the whole this clamping down on content, and the way they're going about it is that it's not going to make the content disappear. I wrote a blog post about it a while ago where I said that, one of the things, I was a historian before I was a professional writer, So, like, you know, in one case, I was like, you know, there was always dirty sexual content being written. I mean, even before we had the printing press and most people knew how to read, and the church, and like, you know, from a European perspective, you know, the church in Rome had this stranglehold of control over what was written and talked about through writing. You know, we're basically monks writing and transcribing things. I mean, you know, they would find ways to get around, you know, the censorship of their times by, you know, they'd write long treatises on like the sexual content that was like you were not the sexual acts you were not allowed to commit, but they would write about it in gratuitous detail, in like, you know, immense, long, flowery details. The sexual acts you were not allowed to commit with, you know, members of the opposite sex, members of the same sex, like everything, anal, and like they would write it out in just like dramatic detail for no other reason you could possibly imagine.
That would be so much better if Amazon could just write that.
Right, so people are always going to they're always going to be making this, and they're always going to sell it. What it's going to mean in a negative aspect is that people are going to have to disguise it. You're going to have to, because what
it means we're no longer able to put trigger warnings in our descriptions.
Right. So what Amazon really wants is for you to not have, you know, a cover where like you have the obvious sexual content of the book just kind of plastered on the cover. They don't want
the title. They want the 50 Shades. They want a tie. Yeah. So it looks like, you know, that...
this veneer of respectability is what they want. Yeah. But what that's going to mean is that a lot more people are going to end up buying stuff that is way too sexual for them.
Yeah. And it's not what they expected.
Yeah.
Right now, before all this, you know, if you buy Spanking My Sister, you know, and it has on the cover a girl, like a woman in pigtails with, you know, a short skirt and a bra and looking really slutty. You know not only what type of book you're getting, it's obviously erotica, but you also know it's probably going to be a bit trashier. It's going to be pretty quick and to the point, and it's going to be a spank book. And, you know, it conveys all these wonderful things. So if you're looking for a spank book, well, there's a spank book right there, quite obviously. If you're looking for something, you know, a little longer, a little more seductive, oh, there's a woman who has her shoulder bared and she looks like she's, you know, almost making love to this guy and they look all moon eyes. You know, it's probably going to be an erotic romance. So you know that the content is going to be romantic, but it's also going to be very sexy, very, you know, erotic.
Yeah.
So, but now we're all going to look the same, and it's all going to look like, you know, Christian romance or something like that. Like very subdued, very vague.
I mean, the funny thing is, and a lot of erotic writers point this out, is that like the covers they're not allowing now for erotica, I mean, very tame covers are getting banned for being too risque. I mean, you know, like a bit of cleavage. You know, they have on other parts of their site on Amazon. I mean, you could buy like when you
sex toys.
When you look at like the sex toys section, I mean, they have like
the big horse dongs.
They'll have pictures of women wearing nothing but tiny little triangles that barely cover their nipples, and this little triangle thong with a dildo strap on. And
for one of our giveaways, we released a book just now, When Dreamers Wake, and we're releasing a book next month, Torn and Seduced, and we're doing big giveaways for both of them. So for Torn and Seduced, because it's a vampire novel, we got a pair of vampire gloves, and I bought it off of Amazon, and the picture was a pair of vampire gloves. For those who don't know, they're sensation gloves. They have needles in them. So they're supposed to be, you know, you could feel the leather on one side and it's supposed to be very calming and, you know, seductive. And then on the other side, it's sharper and a bit painful, you know, for sensation play. So it shows the glove up against a woman's naked breast. And it's just like, you know, there's no pretense or anything. And meanwhile, I have books, like we have books that are filtered, that aren't shown in the general product search. And I mean, all it shows is a bit of cleavage from a woman wearing a bra, but she has a bit of cleavage. Like, I see worse than that when I go to my corporate job.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on there, but you know, that is what it is. So
yeah. I mean, hopefully they'll calm down after the whole scandal
they always
subsided.
do.
But I mean, and a lot of indie authors and stuff like this, and a lot of readers too, judging by the feedback we've gotten from a lot of our fans and such. They're alarmed at what it's going to mean. But, I mean, I do think there's an upside to this, too, for serious writers.
It's going to get rid of a lot of the black hat marketers, the people who are in it for a quick cash grab.
Yeah, black hat marketers are people who have no real interest in writing. They have no interest in making a good product. They're just people who
found out they can make a quick buck writing erotica and figured they could do that.
They'll, a lot of times all they do is they pay other people, they commission them to write something for them. And usually they pay so little, a lot of people will give them stuff they just ripped off of fanfiction.net.
Or there's a lot of people who English isn't their first language.
Yeah, so you're getting a lot of trash that gets shoved up, and they'll just put a sexy cover on there and call it something really dirty, and then people will buy it because it appeals to them.
They're looking for spank books.
Yeah, they're looking for specifically a spank book about a woman with really large breasts who's lactating, and she's riding a horse and about to get double penetrated by some interracial couple. And that's the one thing they want, and these people make sure to cover a lot of bases like that, a lot of these fetishes, so that they can nab up the bucks from these little fetish communities. But the content's crap. So I think on the plus side for serious authors,
it will help
in the long run,
a lot of that.
Yeah, it'll get rid of a lot of that nonsense, ridiculous competition.
And I think it'll help readers a lot as well, because then, I mean, right now there's so many books, and just it's impossible to read them all, and it's even hard now to find what you're looking for, because there's so many. So I think it'll really help readers be able to find and connect with authors a lot better. There will be a bit more loyalty and friendship between authors and readers, which is always very rewarding.
Yeah, it'll definitely make it more important that when you find writers you like, to follow their stuff.
Which, I mean, is how I've always enjoyed reading. I'll find authors that I really like, and then I'll just stick with them and, devour everything they write.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'll go outside my comfort zone once in a while, but, I always go back to my old favorites.
Yeah. So I think for, serious writers, in the long run, it's going to work out for you. I mean, of course, in the short run, we know there. Especially for those people who, rely on this income entirely.
Yeah. I know some of my friends who have lost 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 titles or more on Amazon. And, I mean, it's a huge blow to them. That's hard.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of these people who, that's their sole source of income, that's going to be the difference between making rent or paying the mortgage.
Yeah. So, but on the plus side, we've actually been focusing less on our erotic shorts. We've been getting a lot more feedback from our readers that they've been wanting a lot longer stuff from us. And
we're always going to have the shorts, though.
Yeah, we like shorts sometimes.
And they don't take us that long to write.
And we use them as a form of foreplay.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll always have short stuff, but we have been going more towards the longer stuff lately. So, as I said, we have a lot of new releases coming up, actually, that are all longer. When Dreamers Wake is our newest release. It's actually just been released on October 24th.
And this leads us right into our next topic, too, conveniently enough.
Conveniently enough.
Nice segue.
I know. Men's erotica.
Yeah.
So, there's kind of this, I don't know, assumption about the people who read romance and erotica that they are middle-aged women. And there's been all these studies.
Well, just in general, I read a survey that said something like it was over 70% of readers in general, like people who go and buy books, are women.
Yep. And
it's a small minority that, are male. And when it comes to erotica, especially, it's been seen as that was a kind of women's domain. I mean, you hear the news would, they would actually go on like mainstream news. Like I can't remember what it was it CNN or something? I mean, they call
mommy porn.
Yeah. Fuck. They call erotica mommy porn. Which
is just so insulting to women and men and mothers and everyone imaginable.
It's just silly, but we own and operate Darknest, and for those of you on Darknest listening, I mean, you should probably know better than anyone what a load of crap that is.
Yeah, there is so many men reading and writing erotica.
And it's growing.
It's not even funny.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't always like that. No, I mean, I think...
I don't know. I think that a lot of men... I mean, a lot of these studies, they're self-reported.
Yeah.
And how many men are going to admit to reading romance and reading erotica? Like, it's just not going to happen as much. I mean, Penthouse and Playboy, I mean, they didn't have these stories just for fun. Like, they had them because people wanted them and people were reading them. And who do you think is buying Playboy and Penthouse? It's not women. Typically.
Yeah.
It's men. But they like the dirty stories too, because why the fuck wouldn't you?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying that I think the internet and then ebooks really exploded that population and raised the number of men reading erotica immensely. I mean, the internet added all that anonymity in there. You didn't need to go to a bookstore and buy novel with a trashy cover on the front
with Fabio.
Some Fabio.
Hair blowing in the wind.
Some Fabio looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like just all sweaty and greasy and shit. Oiled. Glistening. Yeah, oily. Oiled up, yes. You didn't need to go buy that and completely embarrass yourself as a guy. You could just look it up online. And I think a lot of the the communities for like Darknest has a big male population. People, readers.
I think the biggest population on Darknest is 25 to 34-year-old men who are college educated.
Yeah, according to the statistics we got on our website back. That's what it said.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, and I mean, lurking around literotica and stuff, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, if it's an even split, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
I see a lot of guys on there.
Yeah.
And Lush Stories, every site that I go to, every free story site has plenty of men there.
Yeah. So there's definitely that social stigma still there, and the news media is definitely trying to keep it there by the looks of it, but, it's changing. And I guess it's only a matter of time before the fact that, so many men are doing it that it stops becoming so embarrassing, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it's just a stigma against reading. People see reading as a feminine thing for some reason. I guess it just ties into, it being a bit creative and, I don't know. I can't really speak to it. But, there is a stigma. A lot of guys won't admit to reading. So... yeah. It's going to take some time for that to go away.
I know with us personally, we've had a lot of male fans. A lot of men who read our stuff and write to us and want to talk about it and all that stuff. Like when we gave our talk back in the spring, we had some...
At the Sex Expo, Risque Sex Expo.
Yes, yeah. A lot of men who liked and read our work or who were interested in our work there came up to talk to us about it. And it was I guess we had the advantage because, we're a male-female team of writers. So it probably helps in that respect, I guess, that we give a kind of two-sided perspective.
Yeah.
And some of our stuff is more geared towards, I think, one gender or the other a lot of times. We'll write a story where I kind of wrote it and geared it specifically with pleasing Michelle in mind, something that she'll really like.
Seduce?
Yeah, Torn and Seduce. I kind of wrote that more with Michelle in mind. So it focuses around the female character. And, but I think that one still stands very strongly as appealing to both sexes. I certainly found it sexy writing it, so.
Meanwhile, When Dreamers Wake.
Yeah, the newest one that just came out.
That was totally written, with Josh's fetishes in mind, his, desires.
Yeah. It's told from a male perspective. The main character is a man.
Leon is the main character in that one, and it follows his very sexy exploits.
In a kind of post-apocalyptic setting.
Yeah. So, personally, as a woman, I loved it too, because, I found the sex scenes really hot, and, I have my favorite characters and stuff that, might not get as much play as I might like, but, it was a lot of fun to write, and it was really sexy, and I think there's definitely the appeal. We've had a couple of reviews from women who, while they say that, it's male-centric, that they really enjoyed it anyway. It's been getting really good reviews from men and women, so I think that's...
I think the one thing that might turn off a lot of women, or, some women anyways, is that, of course, the main character, Leon, does not settle down.
He's kind of a slut. But,
he's a male bimbo. He's a bimbo.
And
he has sex with a lot of different women.
Torn and Seduced is the same way. She's a slut, too. We just happen to like slutty characters. We don't really have a lot of monogamy in our stories, which kind of makes it odd because we can't really market it as romance because there's not a lot of romance, but there's a lot of sex and there is a lot of emotional connection. It's not just, one night stands. I don't care about you.
There's a lot of romance. There's just not that traditional idea of romance being two people who fall unimaginably in love
at first sight. Yeah.
Never want anyone else but each other from that point on and blah, 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 blah. None of that stuff.
And sometimes that can hurt people's understandings of the character, but I think that it's more realistic in a lot of ways. Just because, it's not like most people have one partner and that's it. And
well, yeah, we talk about monogamy. Some people say, it's the standard in our society. But is it really monogamy when you're getting remarried, several times in your life?
They call it, serial monogamy.
Serial monogamy, yeah.
You go from one relationship to another and,
So, yeah, so this one's coming out. Well, it's already out now.
Yeah, it's just released. Brand new, still 99 cents if you listen to this within, the next week.
Yeah, so it's kind of set in the sort of, present day-ish, near future.
Yeah, probably 5-10 years down the road.
Post-apocalypse, some strange occurrence has wiped out most of humanity.
And, we actually detail... we don't go into great detail. We like to leave a lot of these kind of apocalyptic scenarios to the reader's imaginations. But the basic gist of this is spoiled in the first sentence that the old gods have risen. Cthulhu and his ilk have, walked through Earth and found us wanting, so they just took off. They didn't even bother with us, except just their mere presence.
Well, yeah, we were
killed.
They didn't care about us.
They didn't care. They just, like ants, they killed a lot of people on their way out. So, that's basically the scenario that you're going into. I think there's a lot of kind of neat twists, and I feel really conceited saying that because this is a story that I headed. Yeah,
it was one of the few stories where you kind of commanded the plot.
Yeah, and so I feel kind of conceited saying it, but I think there's, some interesting takes on what could happen. A lot of the Cthulhu Rising type stories talk about what would happen when they're here on Earth, and in our ideal, they just took off. They didn't care. Earth sucks. So they just walked on by on their way to their next planetary expedition.
Yeah. And small potatoes. So
and left us in their wake. So, the idea of what would happen years after that and, what would society be like. We actually have a second one written. It's not edited and published yet, but that should be probably early 2014. And that goes a bit more into the story and a bit more into what actually happened and what's happening in the world because of it.
Yeah.
you know, the unforeseen the unforeseen outcome of, you know, the old gods leaving.
Yeah.
So we're actually doing a huge giveaway. We're doing like a month-long book tour to get the word out about When Dreamers Wake. So we're giving away a huge gift prize. Really excited about it because it's not just a gift card. It's not just something slapped together. We actually did a lot of research and looking into it and a lot of shopping for you guys. So I'm so excited to, you know, have one of you guys hopefully win it. One of the inspirations for the story was we were playing the Call of Cthulhu RPG. The tabletop RPG with a bunch of friends. And so because that was a huge inspiration, we're giving away the RPG book and a cool pair...
6th edition.
Yes, 6th edition. A cool pair of Cthulhu-themed dice and a dice bag.
Cthulhu-themed dice bag. And a Dreamers Cthulhu-themed tote bag. And a bunch of other really cool little things. So you'll definitely want to go to our website, jmkeep.com, and check out that raffle and enter that as soon as possible. Because I'd really like for one of our big fans to win, because that'd be really rewarding. Yeah, we want you guys to win that too.
Yeah. So we've been getting a lot of reviews. A lot of people have been really saying that they love the story. That it's entertaining, that it's natural and the action's hot, and that it's, you know, about love and passion and family, and that you can't go wrong with this story. And
if you're a guy, I doubly recommend it because
this
total
is
male
so
fantasy.
Yeah, one of the guys that reviewed it said that it was definitely very nice to think of himself as Leon. So it's it's similar in themes to Vile Wasteland in some ways. It's just, you know, post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
What happens in the ruins of society. But Vile Wasteland was more focused on the female perspective.
Oh yeah, the main character was
Alex. Yeah. And what happened with her. It was also more plot heavy because I am not big on plotting, so mine is more sex.
A lot of sex.
Yeah, so
When Dreamers Wake is a lot of sex.
Yeah, it does. So one of the things that we did before the release was that we gave out a bunch of advanced review copies to people on our mailing list who have done really nice reviews for us or who have connected with us in the past. So if you are interested in getting advanced review copies for future books, sign up for our mailing list and then send us an email telling us that you'd like to be considered for a reviewer spot. And then next time we have a book that we need reviewed, we'll send out an email and let you know that it's available, and if you can post a review for its release date. That really helps us out because then people know what to expect, and it really helps you out because then you get a free book, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Our fans have really...
Since it's one of our books, I'd say it's terrifically awesome.
Terrifically awesome. Yeah. A lot of our fans have been really excited about this. I don't really want to call it a program because that sounds really lame, but you know, it's been very mutually beneficial for both the readers and us. So, it's something we'll definitely be doing a lot more of in the future. So definitely sign up for our mailing list because that is the best way to get all these insider perks.
Yeah. So next, did you want to talk about we had a question about our methods for research and inspiration?
Oh. Well,
I'll start off with inspiration.
Yeah.
Because it's probably the hardest one to explain, it's the hardest one to kind of wrap your head around and really give a genuine answer, but at the same time, the easiest one to say. Because I don't know if I can give a lot of tips on how to get inspiration.
Yeah.
But more so what to do when you get it.
Write it down.
Yeah. Always write it down.
Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter if you think, oh, I'll remember that. Like, no, you will not. You will never remember that ever.
You might not remember all of what you had in mind. And a lot of times when you start writing down an idea, it starts flowing. Yeah. Right there and then, as you know, you just had a quick idea. But if you think to yourself, no, I'll get that later, you don't grow on it. But if you start jotting it down, you're like, oh, and what about, this? And then she meets, that
was like, the other day, I was sitting on the bus, and I don't even remember what it was that prompted it. I think I was listening to a song, and all of a sudden, I thought, I want to write something about a teacher and a student. And that was my idea. That was my grand inspiration. So I started texting this to Josh. And I said, I want to do this story. And so then I started thinking, because despite what he will tell you, I lost in a bet the other day. I bet him that we would not have to turn back because it started raining. And we did. So, the bet was whoever lost had to control the next story. So I lost. So I was thinking about this, and I'm trying to come up with an idea to make a teacher and student story that isn't dominated by the teacher. So then I started thinking, okay, well, maybe she could be the seductress. Maybe she's the one that's going after him. So then it started growing from there. She was in his class. She started flirting with him. He kept rejecting her. Even if he was tempted, he had to turn her down because he, really liked his job. So then I'm like, okay, well, then at some point, he's at a bachelor party and she gets called as the entertainment. For anyone that knows our stories, you know that I love strippers and I used to dance. So I have a lot of, insider information on that. And I like recalling my fun stories. So, I figured maybe she could be dancing for him. And he's already tipsy because his friends have been getting him drunk. So then I'm like, okay, well, why wouldn't he leave? Well, of course he wouldn't leave because he's going to be the groom. He has to stay. And it just kind of spiraled from there. The more I typed on it, the more I came up with and the more, intensive the plot became.
Yeah, so it can go like that. And even when it doesn't, it's just important to get it down. And, you don't need to come up with an entire story idea. Sometimes it could just be a character. You don't have a story for them. You don't have anything for them. You just thought that this idea for a character was awesome. You would like to see this character in a story. You don't know what story. You don't know how, where, but you make all these notes, and then someday when you're trying to write a story, because you had an idea in mind or whatever, you look, but maybe you get stuck, or maybe you feel it needs more. You look through all these notes you've compiled of little ideas, and maybe you find out of that, and you say, oh, well, that one would be great. Yeah. Yeah, or I'm stuck here. You're like, then maybe this happens, and they're
building blocks.
You had some silly little, one of the notes I jotted down today was investigators follow the case of a killer. And it turns out to be, some sort of mysticism was involved or something like that, which is just a stupid little thing. That's not really anything.
That's just a jot idea.
Yeah, but it could be, I'm working on another story for one of our, for the characters in The Mistress, where it was kind of this noir romance, erotic romance thriller, investigation
set
stuff.
In the 1920s.
Yeah. So, we were going to write the sequel for that, and it's want something to happen. Maybe that comes up then. Right? That sort of thing.
We have notebooks everywhere. We bought these great little, 3x5 Mead notebooks for, $2 each. And we have, I have one in both of my purses. I have one at my desk. I have one in my bedroom. I have one at work. I have one everywhere. And, write everything down. It doesn't matter how insignificant it seems. Doesn't matter how stupid. Just the act of writing it down will give you more inspiration. If not now, then maybe later. And it's one of those things where the more practice you have at it, the better you get. So
yeah. And as for where to get your inspiration, that's a lot
everywhere.
harder to say. I mean, for me personally, yeah, like everywhere.
Yeah,
everything.
Everywhere.
And
I find music is really inspiring for me. I don't know why. It's just music I find I connect very emotionally with. I'm not allowed listening to depressing music anymore because of this. So depending on what I'm listening to, I might get a certain vibe from it. I might get a certain vision in my mind. I might, it transports me. I get a very clear view of what's happening in my mind when I listen to music. So I get a lot of inspiration from that. And I mean, it has nothing to do with the lyrics or anything. It's just the tone and the vibe that I get from it.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, I think I get like a lot of my inspiration from like nature sometimes, just like when I'm out and about, like going through like the gardens or something like that, or through a park, or a lot of commons like things like video games and movies. Now, a lot of writers, or a lot of wannabe writers anyways, tend to say that, reading other people's books is great for inspiration, and I would be cautious about that personally. I don't like when I do get inspiration from other like books. I never really get inspiration or good inspiration, I think, from other people who are writing the same stuff as me. If I'm going to write an erotic thriller, The Mistress, I'm not going to look to other erotic thrillers for my inspiration. I think that tends to, like, when you do that sort of thing, like, and I think it's a big pitfall that a lot of people want to do, especially if you're a big reading enthusiast and you want to make the jump to being a writer, is that, you want to read the stuff you like and you want to write the stuff you like.
Yeah.
And I think that could be a big pitfall. Because I joke that it's like kind of incestual. And, the problem with that is that, sure, it's hot, but then, you get excited about it. The problem is then you're just kind of making derivative work.
Yeah.
You're not coming up with new ideas. You're just rewriting other people's ideas.
I think, like, the reason that writers should read isn't for inspiration, but just for vocabulary. I find my vocabulary is a lot more extensive when I'm reading. I don't fall back on the same turn of phrase. I don't fall back on the same words. I don't reuse things as often as I do when I'm not reading avidly.
Yeah.
But I think in that case that you should probably be reading books that are a lot better than what you want to be writing. I read a lot of like very literary, like highbrow fiction, and I find that
fancy.
I know. I mean, even like when I used to read like fantasy novels, they have a pretty extensive vocabulary, and what I used to do was pick out all the words that I liked that I don't hear very often, and I kept them in a spreadsheet. And because I keep everything in spreadsheets.
In your fucking spreadsheets.
And, if I'm feeling like I'm in a slump, then I can go over these words and can kind of refresh my mind that these words exist and they're beautiful and lovely and I want to use them more often. So,
yeah.
I mean, literary fiction has a higher concentration of them, but, I mean, every fiction has some really nice words in them.
Yeah. For me personally, most of what I would read, I used to be big into, like, fantasy. Though, since I started writing sort of fantasy, well, mostly like fantasy, romance, fantasy, erotica, I haven't really read. I've been staying away from it. Because, like, once again, I don't want to be just derivative of other people's works. But, so most of what I would read is stuff like nonfiction. I would read, like, I do read, I would, but I read a lot of, like, of course, being a former historian, like, I read history stuff. I read a lot of science.
I love, like, biographies and stuff like that. Autobiographies.
Because we do some, like, erotic horror content, too, that I find science and history can be big inspirations for that stuff, because those are two fields that are full of terrifying facts.
Like, when looking at inspiration, like, I was trying to think of the things that inspired me to write When Dreamers Wake. And, I mean, some of the landscape and basic infrastructure, was inspired by some of the things in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, which are both post-apocalyptic video games that I played to death. And, I really loved one of the things that I kind of took from that, not that I took directly from that, but just that there's different groups of people. I think all too often there's kind of the homogeny of like one or two groups or one or two ways of living, but Fallout kind of had a better grasp of how people might deal with things differently.
Oh, and the society collapses, you kind of break down into tribes.
Yeah. And so that was of interest to me, and I think that kind of inspired it. Not intentionally, but something I kind of reflected on after.
Yeah.
As well, obviously, Lovecraft and his mythos for the Cthulhu and the old gods. That was the cause of the world ending, and also some of the plot twists. Was inspired by like the cultists and people who worship the old gods, and I hope I did something really fun with that.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun story. I mean, you mentioned Lovecraft, but I don't think it does too much of an honor to him in the spooky department.
Yeah, it's not very scary. It's more pulpy.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot pulpier. It's not a horror, even though it is, based in Lovecraft's kind of.
I kind of feel bad saying that sort of thing at times because, I get Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft. And I love his work. And it bugs me when I read so many other authors who try to emulate him and don't make it. Like, August Derleth, I think, who didn't get it. The idea of, because Lovecraft is all about this cosmic horror, that the universe was so immense and beyond our understanding that even trying to grasp it, and it was the horrors of the universe and all the knowledge out there just would drive our pitiful minds to insanity. That, these things were so far beyond us and our, meager little concepts of morality, and that, so these other authors who just didn't seem to grasp that, and tried to make it a battle of good versus evil and that sort of silly thing. So, that always bugged me. And then I think to myself, well, I was kind of inspired by this. I wasn't really trying to copy him or anything. It was just,
Yeah. So, I mean, you get inspiration everywhere. You just gotta kind of train your mind to realize that that's what it is.
Yeah.
It takes practice. Sometimes I like to go on, there's a role-playing site, Eloquay, and sometimes I'll go there and see what people are looking for, and they have, really nice, story prompts or vague character ideas or something. And even just, seeing...
And darkness.
And darkness,
Silly.
Same thing, there's just the ideas that people are coming up with and writing about, it might trigger something in me. And then one day I might be in the mood for that, and I'll look through our list of prompts, of which we have, I don't know, probably over 100 now.
Yeah, all their little notes sound inspiration stuff like that. I consider that a big treasure trove. That is worth a ton of money by itself, because that's where the stories come from. Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, just be aware of, where your inspiration is coming from, when you feel most inspired. Start getting in touch with yourself. Try to turn off your mind once in a while and see where it takes you. Go to nature, see if that helps. Go into a busy,
Such a hippie.
I know, shut up. Go into a busy shopping center and see if the noise helps you, or if the people that you see there inspire you, or, just find out where your best ideas come from and start listening to them.
Yeah.
Would be my advice.
Yeah, and I think it definitely works for us. I think it runs contrary to a lot of common advice that people give and get.
But if you haven't decided by now that we're a little non-conventional, then you probably haven't.
Well, I think a lot of it too comes from. I think readers who want to be writers rather than from writers, and I think there's a big pressure upon writers to stress their influences from other writers, because of course readers are involved in a reader culture and they want to talk about the books out there that they like. So the authors who are writing the books that they like, they want them to talk about other books that they like.
Yeah, they want to use that as a way to find other books. But...
So there's kind of a pressure for us even to talk about that stuff, but it's like I don't really read a lot of stuff in our genres because I honestly try to avoid it for a large part because of what I said before. But so I think there's a lot of pressure on writers to talk about that stuff, even if they don't really know a lot about it or they don't dally into their own genres. So
it kind of leads us into probably our last question that we got for the night, and that is, what else do we do for fun? Because of course that is always important. Especially
I wasn't even aware we got that question.
Yeah. Well, I try to keep some things from you. Keep some mystery.
Surprise. It's not like I'd want time to think about it or anything.
No, not at all. Well, I'll go first and you can think. So, one of the things that I've been doing a lot lately, for those who don't know, I had 2 friends die recently. So I have not been in the mood for very much of anything. But I've actually found painting miniatures to be a very cathartic, low-stress way of just kind of letting my mind settle. So it's something that I've been doing for a while, something that I started doing, last year? Year before?
You started, I think, years ago.
Yeah, but I never got really serious into it until I think last year.
Last couple of years.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's something that, because our friend Lucas, he gave me some paints, and I decided I needed things to paint. So I now have hundreds of dollars of paints and models and paintbrushes. It's kind of an addiction. I'm looking at probably 25 paintbrushes on my desk right now.
A giant leash dragon.
A giant leash dragon, which I am getting close to finish, and hopefully we'll have finished this weekend. So that has been something that's been really relaxing and really rewarding. I finished a clockwork dragon for my honey. I painted that for him. I painted a Cthulhu for myself, which is standing watch over my Lolth snow globe. Which is just a regular spider snow globe, but I say that it's my Lolth one because...
It looks pretty creepy.
It looks pretty creepy, yeah. I got it from Halloween last year, from Josh. So the other thing that I've been doing a lot of lately is playing Pokemon because I am 10 years old and I still love Pokemon. And I'm getting my team put together based pretty much solely on looks. As long as I have my electric and my fire and my bird and my water Pokemon, I am so happy. So, I've been doing that and avoiding my Animal Crossing town, which probably has a lot of weeds.
Yeah.
And we have been watching... October, we've made it into a new thing where we dedicate the month to watching horror movies. So last year, we watched a bunch of the classics that I'd never seen, like Friday the 13th and Candyman, which is awesome. If you haven't seen it, go see Candyman right now. And Halloween and all that stuff. So this year, we're kind of reaching a bit further.
To find new stuff we haven't seen.
Yeah. So we watched The Cube, which was pretty awesome, and the remakes, which were terrible.
So terrible. The
Hellraiser,
first one's great, though.
Yeah, the first one's great. Hellraiser, which is probably my favorite that we've watched this year.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite.
What's your favorite?
I don't know. It might have been one of the new ones that came out recently, but I can't remember their names. I'm terrible. I can never remember anything's name.
Watched Insidious.
You're Next, was it?
Insidious
that was
2.
Pretty good.
Yeah, You're Next was good.
And Insidious 2, Paranormal Activity was pretty good.
Yeah, we watched
Surprised.
Paranormal Activity 1 through 3, very good. Paranormal Activity 4, not so good.
Oh, yeah. But I was surprised with Paranormal Activity because I don't usually like that shaky cam sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But
I thought the third one was like the best of them, which is strange because when is the third ever the best in a trilogy? Ever.
I can't really think of an example.
No. So, you know, that's always good.
Everything I think of was just the third is a big letdown.
Godfather, Star Wars.
Ewoks. Ugh.
So, we still have another week or so before Halloween, so we'll be watching a lot more horror movies, and I'll be dealing with a lot more nightmares because I'm a very sensitive person. I had zombie nightmares not long ago, which wasn't fun. Sorry, Fairtide.
That's something, yeah.
So what do you do for fun, Joshua?
I certainly don't play Pokemon. That is a child's game.
He is way too mature for that.
I'm a man. I've been playing Pokemon too, as well. It's funny because, I'm a big video game person. When I moved out on my own years ago, when I first kind of left home and I had won all these scholarships in university, and I had kind of more money than I was ever really accustomed to having, and I could finally afford video games. I kind of got into them big time, and I played a lot of really serious stuff for a long time. Morrowind, and got into MMOs like World of Warcraft and that sort of stuff. But now that we've been getting so serious, I work full time on our writing. I'm an author now. I had to be serious and artistic and moody or something. I don't have so much time for that, but so I find myself falling back on the old faithfuls. I've been playing the hell out of Mario games. Yeah. Old ones and the new ones, Mario Galaxy 2.
Meanwhile, I've been playing Pikmin 3.
Yeah, you're way better at Pikmin than I am.
Yeah, that's a given.
Yeah, so doing that stuff and working out. I enjoy working out. I've been forcing Michelle to join me as of late. So now I have a buddy for working out.
Workout buddies. Yeah, so that's pretty much our life, outside of writing. We also go out to eat a lot.
And you can find me on Twitter.
Yeah.
I blather on Twitter.
I don't blather as much on Twitter because they got rid of TweetDeck for my phone, so it's a lot harder to blab.
Twitter is just unmanageable if you don't have an application to deal with it.
I have my lists, and it's a lot harder to follow them on the default Twitter. Yeah. So I don't blather as much. I'm better reached on Facebook.
Yeah.
So
I also write a lot of blog stuff, not just for our blog, but I do some video game blog for Newfoundland local site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do I, but I've only done the one post so far. And I also blog on our site, One Handed Writers, along with about a dozen other...
Hey, I do that too now.
Oh, yeah.
You hired me.
Yeah. No nepotism here.
I had an in with the publisher.
Yeah. So we actually have a lot of cool new people joining us on One Handed Writers recently, too. So,
like me.
Yeah, like him, I guess. And so definitely check that out. If you guys are interested in, writing or reading erotica, we have a lot of really great writers there that are always talking about really interesting stuff. So yeah, I think that's all we have time for. We kind of went a little over the hour, so hopefully our editing will bring it down a bit. But
yeah, we'll cut out all that shit you said about how you hate our fans.
Yeah.
Because that'd be embarrassing.
I know, to leave in. God, that'd be horrible.
Yeah. Bad for business.
Yeah.
Just one final thing, though, for all our budding writers on out there listening on Darknest, we've got the story competition going on, and in keeping with the month, it's Halloween themed.
Yay!
So if you write a story about Halloween, you post it up there and enter into the contest. Go on, do it. And the bonus kind of terms for the competition include, writing a bit about dancing, booze, and maybe a non-traditional setting. Those are just bonus optional.
Okay,
things.
so stripper, booze, dancing. Halloween costume. There's a lot going on there, so do it.
Yeah.
So, thanks everybody again.
Dancing doesn't always necessarily mean stripping.
It does. I don't care. Oh, fine, a ballerina. There. So, thank you everybody for joining us for our 4th erotic podcast. We are trying out our new mic, so we're hoping that this is a lot better quality.
Yeah, and Shell's talking really kind of funny there, just to make sure.
And he's talking really monotone there, just to make sure, just to contrast.
Yeah, I try to talk. I always try to talk as monotone as possible for these things to really keep you focused.
Yeah, absolutely. So, happy Halloween to everybody. It's our favorite holiday. My favorite holiday.
Yeah.
So, I'm dressing up as Peach.
Princess Peach. Not just a big giant peach.
Yeah, no. So, I hope everybody has some really cool costumes and has a lot of, fun.
Halloween's more of an adult thing these days. Go make it sexy and kinky. Have fun.
That was me finger snapping for you. All right, bye.